Hi guys, welcome back, and this time around I'm bringing you the NF Audio NE4 Evolution. NF Audio, for those of you that don't know, is a brand that's been around already for a few years. They've always focused mainly on IEMs tailored towards, studio applications, monitoring, live music, so on and so forth. Some of you might have heard of the NA, the NM, the NA+, the NM+, the NA3. There's been quite a few of them in the lower price bracket, let's put it that way. But then they've also got the more expensive ones, and this is one such case. The NE4 is priced at $749, so it's big money. I want to thank, before I carry on, I actually want to thank NF Audio for having sent me and having trusted me in to give you a fair and unbiased review, like I think I always do. Anyway, NE4 Evolution. What is the NE4 Evolution? It's a 4BA IEM, and I'll get into more details in a couple of minutes. But NE4 IEM, the 4BA IEM. This is the packaging. It's got quite a lot of information. You straight away will notice this blue, black, and red, which corresponds to popular, reference, and transparent. And what they are basically talking about here is these interchangeable faceplates, okay, which you can remove. Let me actually show you here on the box. So you have, one second guys, my apologies. So you have these faceplates which are removable, okay, and you can exchange on the actual IEM, obviously, of course, with a special tool that it brings. And what these faceplates then confer is a different tuning, and a very different tuning in each one of them. I mean, it's very noticeable. It's not those adjustments that sometimes we see done with the switches that you see some difference. Or no, the difference is very noticeable. It basically kind of tries and make it a jack of all trades, because it can go from being an IEM used for monitoring to an IEM used to listen to some pop music and some EDM and some R&B and do everything, not wanting to jump the gun here too much, and do everything to a very, very high standard. I think that's also to be expected at $749, although that's not always the case. I mean, you sometimes pay a lot of money for some IEMs, and you create some expectations, and then they don't come through. But anyway, with the case of the NE4, they've surely done their homework, and like I said, it's an IEM that's been around for about 4 years now almost, and it's actually a pity that not much has been said about it. I myself I've known about it since the beginning. I just never bought it because $749 is a lot of money, and I really spend way too much money as it is. And I kind of thought to myself, back then, why would I go spend that kind of money on something that probably won't be getting a lot of attention, because I don't know, just the ideas that I had back then. Anyway, like I said, it's got these faceplates, okay. The pop faceplate, which is emphasizing the bass and kind of keeping the mids and treble, trying to keep up with that emphasis on the bass, so it kind of gives you a more V-shaped type of a signature. You have, well, this faceplate should actually be over here. This black faceplate is the reference, so kind of a mid-bass, more focused tune, and then with the mids and the highs always also keeping themselves in balance with the bass that you have, but it's a more neutral, definitely way more neutral kind of presentation. The transparent, even more neutral by even further reducing the bass a little bit more. And they've also got a newer one which they've released, which is the clear, which is this one here, which is kind of an in-between the transparent and the reference, okay. So those are the faceplates. This one doesn't come with actual IEM, it's an extra. It's got some decent enough tips. I'm actually using the standard tips. They were more than satisfactory for me to get the results that I wanted. And then the only thing really that in the packaging I feel is very disappointing is the cable. I mean, and especially when you consider that this IEM has been around now for 3 years, almost 4 years. I think they could have already have made a slight upgrade and actually given us a better cable. I mean, this is, like I said, $750. So a decent cable, you know, something with, if not exchangeable terminations, at least a better quality cable, something that looks the business, something that looks the part. I'm actually using a cable from IVipQ on my NE4, as you can see, and it totally, I mean, you got the NE4 with the stock cable, and you put this cable that I've got, and it visually, cosmetically, it looks the part, it looks the business, the actual accessories that the cable has, and everything. It just looks completely different. And the cable itself, in terms of its quality, it is a superior quality cable than the stock one. So in terms of the accessories, this is the part that I think is a pity that they didn't improve upon it. Okay, in terms of the tips, they are fine. It's got a nice case. This case, I've already seen it a few times before from NE4 Audio, so it's got a decent case. The actual tool to remove the faceplates is actually inside here. Let me just quickly show you to you. Sorry, apologies. There we go. It's this tiny little screwdriver. Okay. There we go, and that's it. So in terms of its accessories, with the exception of the cable, I mean, it's nice, it's solid, it's you know, nothing that can be honestly criticized. As for the IEM itself, it is an absolute work of art. That's all I'm going to say. Absolute work of art. It's, you know, how can I explain this without wanting to offend anybody? There are IEMs that you look at them and immediately you can see the chi-fi style, let's put it that way. And there's nothing wrong with it. Just, some of them are very beautiful. And then there are IEMs that you look at them and you can identify them straight away as being a product which is more Western in its origin, either American or German or something. And you know, this has got a beautiful, beautiful metal shell. This IEM actually reminded me a lot, not visually, but in terms of the quality of the build and everything. It reminded me a lot of one of my favorite IEMs that I unfortunately do not own, but I had the opportunity to listen to it and have it with me for about 2 months last year, which is the TSMR Dest TI, which is an IEM from Vietnam. And actually, to even further talk about it, even in terms of the sound, there's a lot of similarities here between the NE4 and the TSMR Audio. The difference between TSMR Audio is that it's still got then some ESTs added onto the 4 BAs that it has. So it's 4 BAs and 2 ESTs. And that's it. And that's where, you know, things kind of differ. Of course, we are talking about an IEM that costs the better part of almost $3,000 or something of the sort. I don't really recall now. And of course, the sound is superior. But I think just the fact that this actually does have some similarities in terms of sound to such a high end or such an exclusive IEM as the Dest TI, I think that in itself already speaks a lot for how good I actually think the NE4 is. Okay, in terms of source, what did I use to listen to the NE4? And I've had the NE4 now for probably about close to 2 months. I've listened to it extensively. I know I've been a little bit delayed with some of my reviews, but I've listened to it a lot. So what I'm going to say is based on a lot of listening to it. It's not been a quick 1-2 hour listen and already, you know, pump out a review. No, I've listened a lot to the NE4. So I used the Q15. I used the TP50, I used the Yuki, I used the M15, I used the Cayenne, but most of the listening was done with the Q15 from Fire and with TP50. Why? It just happened to be that way, you know, and the Yuki as well. They just were the ones that I would pick up first, and I just enjoyed listening to the IEM, to all of these IEMs, but mainly the NE4 on them, and that's just basically the reason. So there's no other special reason, no other motive here behind me having selected those IEMs, those sources. My apologies. As for what I selected, I selected some IEMs here which are 4 BAs, some are 5, some or 12 BAs. So there's a wide array here of things. There's things here which cost $250. There's things here that cost $2,000. And I did it that way so that you know, I could position the NE4 this is not oh, this is better than that, that is better than this. No, this is not what this review is going to be about, or at least that's not what I'm trying to do with this review. I'm trying to give you a, like I said in the beginning, a very fair and a very unbiased opinion about the NE4. Okay, so what do I have here? I've got the SeeAudio the Neko. I've got here the SeeAudio Bravery. I've got over there the EPZ the 530. I've got there the PENON Turbo, sorry. The TSMR the Halo, the SOFTEARS RSV, one of my favorite BA IEMs of all time, the SOFTEARS Studio4, and the SA6 MK2 from DUNU as well, one of my favorite IEMs in terms of BAs of all time. How can look, let me break it down in the following manner. I did most of the listening with the red faceplate, as you guys can see, which is the pop, and I did some listening as well with the reference faceplate. And the reason why I ended up choosing mainly the red faceplate is firstly because for my music genre, from the music that I listen to, I found that the reference faceplate, the black one, although very capable, there's nothing wrong with it, I found that with a lot more songs I was missing a little bit of that extra energy that I like in the low end, which I was able to get it from the red faceplate, the pop. With regards to the transparent faceplate and the clear faceplate, I listened to them very briefly, and it just was way too thin for me. It was a sound that was, yes, very correct, yes, very detailed. For those that are vocal lovers, especially the clear and especially the clear, I would say, will probably be very satisfying and very agreeable. I mean, loads of detail, loads of technical capabilities with those faceplates, the clear and the transparent. But it just didn't fit my bill in terms of, okay, I can listen to whatever I want to listen from, let's say from Cha Cha Loco of Joe Jackson to Piano Man by Wolfgang Hafner, or going all the way to Africa Vodka from Calvin Momo, or going again the complete Ja work from Ben Harper. Everything that I like to listen, and I'll post my like I usually do, I'll post my playlist so you guys can have an idea. The faceplate that was able to be the most competent in doing all of that was ultimately the pop faceplate. Yes, some of you might argue, oh, but it's more V-shaped, didn't it make certain things sound a little bit artificial or bloated? I'm not going to deny, yes, it did make some things sound a little bit just extra colored, but I prefer to have that extra coloredness in the sound than to have a sound that was a little bit way too thin and a little bit way too thin, basically. Just let's keep it at that so I don't complicate things. Also, I did notice that with the pop faceplate, I was able to get a coherence of the drivers, which didn't transmit so much that BA timbre that we have, and that we either accept it or don't like it, but that with, for example, the transparent faceplate or with the clear faceplate, I noticed it, and I just it didn't offend me, but I could pick up on it. And with the reference faceplate, it was more subdued, definitely, but definitely with the pop, and obviously it's a question that boils down to the fact that because of you having that extra bass energy, it just makes things sound a little bit more more organic, more old school, let's put it that way, and camouflages maybe that metallicness that the BAs might sometimes have, which is inherent to the way that they are, and it's just the way that it is. So talking, and now mentioning the sound with the pop faceplate, which is, like I said, ultimately the one that was the most used. Bass, fantastic. I was actually quite surprised by how competent in terms of weight it was. Very quick, very clean, that there goes without saying. The one thing I did find curious, and I'm obviously assuming that this is a unvented system, but the one thing that I did find very curious here with the NE4 was that let's say for the sake of argument, I had something like the Halo, or I had something maybe like the EPZ, the 530, which are significantly more energetic in the upper registers. When I transitioned from them to the NE4, the NE4 in the first seconds of listening to it sounded very dark, sounded like there was no treble there. And then after a couple of seconds, and like I said, I'm attributing this obviously to the fact that it is not a vented IEM, things balanced each other out. You know, there was an equilibrium, let's say, of pressures inside of my ear and inside of the actual IEM, and it came alive. And so I never ever found that there was any information missing in terms of not being enough upper mids, or enough treble, enough twinklies and sparklies, like I like saying. No, but it was the one IEM that was very noticeable, and of course some of them here are vented, some of them are not, but in some, even on the ones that are not vented, I've never experienced it in a manner like I did here with the NE4. So that was something that I found actually quite interesting. But as now going back to the sound again, bass, super clean, super detailed, more than capable of resolving the complex tracks. No issues whatsoever. I mean, let me see here. A song that you guys, Memory of You, by the remastered version by Christopher Goes. Beautiful. Playa Blanca Dream from Buddha Bar. Again, it's got a very nice atmospheric type of bass, very well executed. The bass was clean, detailed, resolved, nothing to be said there. Mids, male and female vocals, in my opinion, perfect. I cannot really fault it. Although having said that, there were occasions, and this is down now to this extra energy that the bass has, there were occasions that maybe the reference faceplate was able to give me just a little more airiness in the female vocals, a little bit more atmosphere, a little bit more, I would even say, soundstage. Okay, but like I said earlier, those times that occurred did not compensate the times that I missed that little bit of extra low end that just made things just more agreeable, just more interesting for me to listen to. Okay, I like my sound to be detailed, I like my mids to be clean and detailed, but I like my bass as well. I like my bass to be present, even if that bass is maybe a little bit out of context or a little bit over the top. As long as it's properly done, I like it. And that's one thing that here, you know, it cannot be said that it wasn't done. It's got a very well done bass. And then, as I said, in terms of the upper mids and treble, again, perfect resolution, detailed retrieval, everything in more than ample quantity and more than capable. There was no sibilance, there was no aggressiveness, there was no lack of being able to keep up with things. It scales extremely well. I mean, I gave it a good cranking once or twice, and things kept themselves very balanced. There wasn't any parts of the frequency that started jumping out and over, or imposing themselves over the rest. Even like I said, keeping in mind that we have this much bass. Having said that, with, for example, the transparent faceplate, I did notice that scaling wasn't as good, and it's down to not to the fact that there's anything wrong, but it's just the way that faceplate is tuned or conveys, the tuning that faceplate conveys to the IEM is such that the mids, upper mids and treble already, let's say, more emphasized in the bass. So when you push it, it will emphasize those areas more and maybe come across as less balanced, in my opinion. With regards to the reference faceplate, that equilibrium was more consistent. But for me, for my music, for the way I like listening to it, definitely the pop faceplate was the one that kept that scaling the most well done. Let's put it that way. Anyway, basically, in terms of sound, I think I've already given you a nice overview. It's a competent IEM. $749 is a lot of money, true, not denying it. But when you consider that you have basically, let's say, forgetting now the clear faceplate, you got basically 3 IEMs here, okay? If you take that into consideration, that you are actually purchasing 3 IEMs, it starts making a little bit more sense. Obviously, it's always difficult to justify spending that amount of money fully, the law of diminishing returns, but I'll give it that much. Yes, the technical aspect of the NE4 has been very well done, and because it's been well done, the price does make sense, does justify itself a little bit more. Remember, this is back in a time that, for example, the RSV was also around, and the RSV is a 5BA and it cost the same thing, $750, and you didn't get extra tuning, or in extra tuning variabilities. You were stuck with that tuning that it had, and that was it. You either liked it or you didn't like it. Over here, you do have that versatility. Okay. Now, just briefly touching up with these IEMs and comparing them here with the NE4. Okay, the Neko. You know, the Neko is a $600 plus IEM, $600 plus IEM, so very close to the price of the NE4. And it's not that it's an offensive IEM, or not that it's a bad IEM, but back when I reviewed it, I said that yes, it was a well-built IEM. You know, it sounded good, but when you consider that you had something like the Bravery, which is next to it, which initially was like $250, so let's say almost a third of the price as compared to the Neko. And it was offering a performance which was very much on par with the Neko. The Neko became an IEM that was difficult to justify, you know, against its peers, its adversaries, and especially things like, for example, the MK2, the DUNU SA6 MK2, or the EPZ, or even the PENON, the Turbo. You know, the Neko didn't really bring anything special to the table compared to the NE4. And when I, you know, listen to both and I see what one offers and what the other offers, the NE4 is the better choice. I mean, it's the one that I would think would make the most sense. Okay, compared to the Bravery. And I've got the Bravery up firstly because it's a 4BA IEM, and you know, let's say a 4BA against another 4BA. How is it? How isn't it? I would say that the Bravery has a sound which is more proximal of the sound that the NE4 offers with its reference faceplate. Maybe it's got a little bit extra more energy and upper mids and treble, which will convey it. Yes, more details, more twinklies and more sparkles, but also can make the sound a little bit more colored. I've always liked the Bravery. I've always thought that the Bravery was a very nicely done IEM, and an IEM that I thought deserved a little bit more attention than the attention that it got. So if I have to compare the Bravery, to the NE4 on the basis of using just the black faceplate, which is the reference faceplate, the Bravery sounds good, a little bit more, let's say, fake in the way that it does things, while the NE4 is more realistic. Obviously, of course, we have this huge price difference. I mean, it's 3 times the price, the NE4 as compared to the Bravery. So, you know, but I think if you have a Bravery, you already will get an idea of what this is capable of doing with that reference faceplate. Keeping in mind that here, that treble is more toned down, so more realistic, more, let's call it, audiophile. Okay. Compared to the EPZ 530 over there, a favorite of mine. I mean, it is an IEM that I, you know, look, I basically like all the IEMs that are here. Let's put it that way. But the RSV was the first one that I really could appreciate in terms of being an all BA IEM. The DUNU after that, you know, came in and even fulfilled more my expectations than what I was wanting from an all BA IEM. And the EPZ surprised me because, you know, being a brand that you kind of, okay, more mid-tier products, you don't expect when you put it in your ears the first time to be greeted with the capabilities that it has. Fantastic bass, excellent mids, very well done upper mids and treble. Compared with the NE4, maybe a little bit again overly energetic, which can lead to some impressions of it being colored as compared with the NE4. But you know, the bass on the EPZ on the 530 is phenomenal. It's got it's a dual Sonian unit being used in the bass, and the way they've tuned it, it's really very nice. I can't really criticize it, and I mean, again, comparing one and the other, it's a difficult one. Obviously, I mean, that's about $450 give or take, so it's yes, it is a little bit cheaper than the NE4. And the NE4 again will ultimately make a little bit more sense because of that versatility that you have being offered by the faceplates. And yes, the build quality is exceptional. I mean, not that the build quality of the EPZ is any worse. I mean, the EPZ's got this wood style, I forget now the name. It's basically a wooden shell that's been treated, and that does help. I mean, yes, you do notice the difference in terms of the sound, the resonances that the shells create, being a metal shell or resin shell, or like I said, this treated wood that they use here. And so for me to say now that, you know, no, the EPZ is better or the NE4 is better, it's a difficult one. I'm not going to deny it. I'm not going to stand here and say no. EPZ is a very nicely tuned IEM. Now, if you are once again looking for versatility and you know which will be the one that will probably tick the most boxes, okay, NE4. And again, it's just down to the fact that it's got these faceplates, which are magic, and it's as simple as that. PENON Turbo, I was forgetting that one. I was actually going to go already to the Halo, but I was forgetting the PENON Turbo. PENON Turbo has got those switches which do allow for quite a bit of versatility because they actually do work quite nicely. In the setup that I have, which is not boosting the bass, the super bass, it's got that super bass off. It's just, you know, boosting slightly a little bit the bass. It's not and the highs just a little bit. The sound that I get here is very similar to the sound of the NE4 with the pop faceplate, although maybe a little bit extra more colored in terms of the bass. Yes, if I cut the bass off here, then they become even more similar, but I just like the balance that it has with this setup of being, let me show you here. So the turbo switch off and then 101. I just like this balance. Again, it's the same situation like the pop faceplate here on the NE4. You know, the reference faceplate is good. It sounds good, but with the pop, it just ticks more right boxes. And in this setup for me on the turbo, it just ticks more right boxes than having that bass switch in the off position. Comparing the two of them, and keeping in mind this is about $500, this is the first IEM that I would say, because of the tuning switches and because you get that extra versatility in the tuning, this is probably the first IEM out of all the ones that I've shown up to now that I would say, yes, this does make a solid case for itself. So it is a solid IEM in terms of sound, very much capable of keeping up with the NE4 for the majority of the times, and the NE4 only really edges it out if I'm going to use the NE4 purely in a monitoring situation or in something that I'm wanting to do like some studio work with, then yes, this will be the better IEM. In terms of build quality, I have to give the build quality to the NE4. I mean, this is it's a decent shell, it's a resin shell, but it's not the NE4. Okay, the Halo, look, the Halo is $2,000. I mean, it's almost 3 times the price of the NE4. On a pure basis of sound, yes, it is more polished, yes, it is more detailed. You know, the balance, the coherence, everything here on the Halo is absolutely fantastic. Does that justify ultimately it costing as much as it does? Well, look, it's the old age question. You know, when you start spending above a certain value, it all becomes a question of do you have the money to spend? Do you have the overall, let's say, package of products that will actually be able to let you extract the best performance out of it? Will it actually play well in your ears? You don't know. So it's a bigger gamble, you know. But yes, the Halo is a superior IEM to the NE4. Okay, although like I said, the NE4 again, offering this versatility of the faceplates, and I don't want to sound like a broken record always saying this all the time, it does allow for you to have a very solid performance that, you know, does I mean, yes, it doesn't, even with the pop faceplate, it ultimately doesn't keep up with what the Halo can do in terms of the bass and so on and so forth. I mean, these Sonian BAs being used here are phenomenal, the 38D1Xs, but it does a good job. It does a good job of you know, giving at least some tough times to the Halo. Compared to the RSV, these are two side grades to each other. That's the best way I can put it. Technically, this is not as good as the NE4. It's as simple as that. Musically, this is probably just that little extra more well executed. It sounds very much like a very well done DD, and I've always said that. Not detracting anything away from the NE4, like I said, but even with the pop faceplate, which does away with or tries to control all those issues of you know, the BA timbre and so on and so forth, and it does a very commendable job of it, mind you. The RSV has just got that magic in terms of its organicness, in terms of its musicality, that not even the Studio 4 can keep up. Although certain people said that the Studio 4 was better, I find that the RSV is still the better IEM. So this is a very solid side grade to the NE4. Okay. The Studio 4, I've very much, it's the same situation as the RSV. The advantage that the Studio 4 has, obviously, is it costs $400, and sometimes you can even get it for cheaper. So that makes it a, you know, a very interesting proposition if you're wanting you know, a sound which is very correct. That's the thing here that we can say about the sound of the RSV and the Studio 4, is that they are very correct. They are very audiophile in their presentation. The sound of the Halo, for example, is a very correct sound, but it's got already its own little signature, which kind of is not as audiophile, let's put it that way, not as neutral, not as maybe boring. Okay, and please try and understand what I'm trying to say by all of that. The same thing with the Turbo. The Turbo is a fun, engaging sound. The same thing applies to the EPZ. The Bravery is a more colored sound, focused on the mids and upper mids and treble. The Neko is a more neutralish sound, trying to emulate to a certain extent here the RSV and the Studio 4, but it just doesn't do it with the same elegance. Okay, and then finally the SA6, the Mark II, which, like I said, I mean, I absolutely think it's a fantastic IEM. I've always said that from day one. It's a fantastic IEM. At the time when I actually reviewed it, I compared it to one of my, which I actually didn't put here, I forgot, which was the Audio Neon Pro, which is a very, very good OBA IEM, mind you, very, very good IEM. And I said that the SA6 was actually more competent than the Neon Pro. As compared here with the NE4, yes, okay, it's got that bass switch, which does allow it to have a little bit of tunability there, but not as, obviously not as capable as here on the NE4. I would say that the SA6 is again a decent side grade to the NE4. Okay, it offers a sound which is very much DD like, so it's got that sound which is kind of along the lines here of the RSV, very, very musical, very organic, although it's got a little bit more, well, a little bit more isn't, I'm actually being, I'm not being 100% correct. It's got a lot more detail in terms of the upper mids and treble as compared to the RSV, and that means then that its technical capabilities are, you know, are superior. Technically, it is a superior IEM to the RSV. Technically, the SA6 compared here with the, or not technically, but overall in terms of the sound, yes, definitely a side grade. I would say that it's more musical overall than the NE4. Even with the NE4 in its, well, with the NE4 in its pop faceplate, as I've done so far, it is a more musical IEM, the SA6, as compared to the NE4. And I would say the NE4 more capable by changing the faceplates. If I'm again looking for something which is more proficient when it comes to monitoring and so on. So again, a side grade with regards here to the SA6 and the NE4, and that's basically it, guys. I mean, I'll show you the graphs in a second video, but for now, if there's any questions, please let me know. Like and subscribe, and that's it. You take care now. Bye bye.